consistency and persistency is what enables the horse to learn. And the same thing with riding. I have a discipline. I wake up early in the morning, and that's when I do my riding. It's on a consistent basis, and then I build the rest of my life around that. That's how we get so much done, is by consistent application of effort.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Authors on Mission. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and today we're returning to a conversation that started in June with Dave Letterfly Knoderer. Last time, Dave shared his 7 secrets from Hit the Road and Thrive, giving us a masterclass in designing an unconventional life of freedom and service. But today, we're diving into the deeper current that runs beneath all of Dave's work, his belief that our disconnection from horses has fundamentally broken something essential in nature. So Dave isn't just theorizing here. He spent decades mastering classical horsemanship, performing award-winning routines, and discovering that the same principles that create harmony between human and horse can transform how we navigate everything from business relationships to our own inner turmoil. So whether you're an author seeking deep emotional intelligence for your characters, an entrepreneur wanting to lead with a genuine presence, or simply someone exhausted by the shadow connections that dominate modern life, today's conversation offers something revolutionary, a return to wisdom that's been patiently in the stable all along. Without further ado, welcome, Dave. It's a pleasure to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, it's always great to have a second appearance. So, hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So, stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. We did talk about Hit the Road and Thrive back in June, but we also mentioned your circus background briefly in that show. So I'm wondering if you could just take us back to that moment a little bit. What was it like to be a teenager, first joining the circus and discovering horses?
Well, actually, joining the circus was actually a solution to a problem because
Mm,
of the frustrating family situation I grew up in. So I discovered not only an alternative way of living my life, but what ended up happening was it ended up becoming a godsend because at the circus, I became fascinated with how the trainers were enrolling their animals to do these amazing things during
mm,
the conferences. So I became fascinated with the animal training, which was ends up filling a void that I had never filled as a child because of the reluctance socially that occurred because of the situation that I was in. So actually credit horses for introducing me to what I call Relationship 101. It was where I learned relationship skills and the philosophy behind functional ways of interacting with another living being in an ennobling way that elevates the experience of everybody involved.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. So it's really cool that's taught you so much, especially about human beings and relationships. It's very cool to see how one set of skills transfers from one thing to another thing. So that's really interesting. Moving forward a little bit, when it comes to your writing, you do make a bold claim that every person on the planet
once had a relationship with horses. So I'm wondering, how did losing that connection impact society's emotional intelligence, do you think, in terms of that?
Yeah, I think that at one time, back in Mark Twain's day, everybody had a relationship with horses, whether it was the family horse that they used to pull the buggy into town, or whether it was the riding horse for the doctor on his rounds, or teams of horses, and it certainly that's how they got work done around. That's what built this country, and what children typically did was they had to get involved with the chores that surrounded having the family horse, and then they had to learn how to uh, harness and hook the and hitch up the horse, and certainly get him ready and put him away and clean him up and stuff. And that's where humanity had a practical relationship with the horse, and they had a term for it back then. They called it horse sense. There was a set of lessons that we learned in regards to having the responsibility of taking care of and working with a horse. And what's extra interesting now is that they're discovering horses used for therapy for people with troubling conditions, trauma,
Mm.
and even people that who are incarcerated. They they put horses in their lives, and then all of a sudden they learn these caretaking skills and how to be loving and functional with another love, and it ends up becoming a way to bring about healing in these special needs lives. But I think it should expand beyond just the special needs, and include horses and horsemanship, and certainly knowledge, at least, about horsemanship for the masses. And that's what's become the underlying theme of all of my books, and especially this recent book that I just mentioned to you that I have completed and it's ready for my editor now. That is the story of my third dancing horse that I took from a scared young colt all the way through the training process to bring about his knowledge of working upper level dressage, all the way to the point with to him not only having a performing career with me, but winning an award at the talent competition in Sarasota, and all the way through his entire life, including the medical trials at the end of his life, and then going through the unfortunate experience of having to put him down at the end of his career. So, um, and I tried to put a underlying theme that would be of benefit to the reader, and that has to do with this sense of belonging, because that's something that was missing from my life prior to my relationship with horses. And then it was the horses that taught me not only how to love, but especially that I belong.
Definitely. And so this book that you're referring to here, that is Red Sorrow on the Road Home. Is that correct?
Well, it's Red Sorrel, and
Sorrow.
which
Yes.
is kind of redundant because sorrel means red. So it's
Ah,
Red Sorrel on the road home. So I guess it could be one or the other. Sorrel on the road home, but I like Red Sorrel on the road home. Yeah.
mm, understood. So is red symbolic there then? I'm assuming maybe it has ties to grief or something along those lines, the color red. Where'd that
I
thought process come
I never that thought never occurred to me.
from?
Referring to the color of the horse. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I was kind of thinking, I was like, okay, what does red symbolize? And I don't know off the top of my head. I know I've heard people say it means anger, but perhaps it also means grief too. Maybe that's a interesting little tie in there.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, well, since we're discussing horses and on this show, I'm curious to know, in your opinion, any sort of horse care techniques or related to horses, does any practice like that relate to writing in any way? Does working with horses, you say, help the writing process? I mean, you mentioned it has so many benefits. I'm curious to know. Maybe I'm throwing something at you that you're not prepared for, but I'm wondering here. What do you think?
As a matter of fact, the study of horsemanship actually influenced my relationship with the creation of art at the
Mm,
prior to my writing career taking off. So one of the many things that you learn as a developing horseman, especially when you're involved with learning a classic form of horsemanship, is an attention to detail and certainly discipline and follow through. There aren't any there is no upside to asking or intending to do something and then not doing it. One of the things we learn as a horseman is that once you ask for what it is that you're asking for, there is no stopping until you get it. And then that teaches several things. Among them, it teaches a good work ethic. So, how does classic horsemanship influence the writing discipline? It influences it in a very positive way.
yeah, yeah, I can only imagine. Do you have a specific example, do you think, that you've drawn like in your own practice from what you've learned? I'm curious to know. I mean, discipline for one, have you found yourself resorting back to that when you were writing this current book, for example?
Yeah, definitely. The one of the things we learn as a horse trainer is that consistency and persistency is what enables the horse to learn. That means that as I continue my lessons 7 days a week with the horse's learning accelerates because of the consistency that is taking place, on a daily basis. And the same thing with writing. Once you get a momentum, I have a discipline. I wake up early in the morning, and that's when I do my writing. And so it's typically I write 2 hours every morning, and it's on a consistent basis. And then I build the rest of my life around that, and it promotes momentum. That's how we get so much done, is by consistent application of effort. And those are the kinds of things that we learn in horsemanship.
Right, understood. Well, hey, I love that. I love that you can draw parallels between horsemanship and writing, and of course, many other facets of life as well. So kind of going back to a little bit more about the writing process and your techniques. Writing about animal relationships seems very emotionally complex, much different than writing a travel guide, for example, which some of your other books are. So I guess I'm curious to know, how do you capture nonverbal communication and kind of the energies that you experience with horses? I think the authors listening today might benefit from this. It's not every day we talk about writing about animal relationships. So this is a very unique take. What's your strategy when communicating that on the page?
When training a horse, we tend, I don't know if it would be a product of an imagination, or maybe it really is empathy or sympathy or something, but I actually visualize a conversation taking place, as I monitor the response that I'm getting from the horse. Because oftentimes you can translate a little nudge or a little wiggle of the twitch of the mouth or the pivoting of the ears. That's the way they communicate. And what I can do as a developing horseman is I can put those movements into words, and I can and all of a sudden the horse is saying, "Oh, you want me to do that? Oh, that'd be okay. Oh, really? I'm going to get patted on the neck? Wow, this is great." So, I visualize that kind of thing, and that's one of the things I included in the latest book. Was I put some of these experiences that we went through together I wrote them from the perspective of the horse. And even though the horse probably doesn't structure his thoughts into the English language and in a understandable way, I went ahead and took artistic liberty and put those things in several portions of the book just to give the reader the perspective of the horse.
Yeah, I love that, and very interesting. I like how you said a lot of it was very subtle touches, like the wiggle of a nose or something like that. Very clever, but very well done because I think it's something that anybody could understand what the horse is trying to say and communicate, right? So,
Yeah.
very good idea. Um, so you did mention to me though, now that this book is complete, the Sorrow on the Road Home. Well, first off, I'm wondering, is there a release date out there? Is it still in the editing process? What's the actual? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's in the editing process, so I have no idea when it's going to be complete. And then with this particular book, my ambition is to present it to a publishing company that specializes in horse books. And I have no idea how long a process that's going to be, because the next thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to write a query letter, and then you have to write a proposal and
Yeah.
all other things. So I have no idea how long all of those things are going to take.
Right. Well, you cross one mountain, now you have to get over the rest. But hey, as we all authors know, it's part of the process, and every step is a step forward. So that's some great news, and keep on with it. And we're excited to learn more once it's ready to be live, and we can all check it out ourselves, just like we check out Hit the Road and Thrive and Speedy and your other books too. Uh,
Yeah,
so, in our last conversation, you mentioned that writing gives your life purpose. I'm curious to know how writing about horsemanship deepened or changed that sense of purpose.
horsemanship is something that I'm very passionate about, and
Mm.
as I apply the service mentality and get clarity in regards to the message that I want the reader to get, the payoff that they get from reading the book, it makes it easier. I get clarity in regards to uh, what to include, what to discard, and in an effort to move the reader forward into the concept that I want them to receive. So, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, no, very cool stuff. So before we got on this recording today, you mentioned to me that you started to work on another project. I'm wondering if you'd like to shine a little bit of light on that.
I was inspired last spring. As I mentioned earlier, I was born into a frustrating family situation. I'm the younger brother of a boy who produced bizarre behavior for which there was no explanation back in the 50s and 60s. A couple decades later, he was diagnosed as having Asperger's, which is a high functioning form of autism. So I thought maybe there would be an audience out there who may very well be experiencing the frustration that I experienced growing up uh, with this condition in the household, who would benefit from reading a book about that took the reader from the devastating uh hatred and frustration at the beginning of my life, and then walking the reader through the process that I went through, that includes the process of recovery and healing and then growing spiritually, and then uh and then finally arriving at the place where I had the ability to forgive my brother for being the way that he is, and then accept my brother. So it's kind of a hatred to redemption type story that will hopefully actually serve people, because there are so many people that are in frustrating situations and they don't know that there's a way out, or there's a solution, or even if there's relief, or if there's somebody else in the world who can relate to what it is they're going through, so they don't have to be alone with it. And so that's what inspired me. It was the potential to help heal uh, people with broken hearts out in the world.
Right, definitely. And I think it's beautiful that you're using your brother's relationship as a inspiration, I guess you would say, for this book, kind of grounding it in real life facts. I understand that correctly, right? You're kind of drawing from your personal experiences.
Hmm.
Understood. And what's that like then? Kind of, we talked about, how you communicate your relationship with horses in the books, but then what about people, right? Like, what kind of strategies do you employ when doing that? Because it's definitely a delicate balance.
Yeah, and it's kind of the kind of because as I mentioned earlier, I was not social when I was a child. That's
Mhm.
probably why I became so creative artistically, was because my tendency was to remain withdrawn and stay in my safe place, which was to be creative. And so my social skills began with horses, and then my becoming relationally functional with people is still occurring. And it began with the process of recovery when where I learned there was such a thing as a safe place to go ahead and be exactly who I am with other people who were in the same boat. And what I'm doing with the my mission as an author is not only cathartic in regards to healing the some of the trauma that took place in childhood, but it's also a way to take those experiences and use them to be helpful to other people.
Understood. Yeah, and that's all you can do, right? Is even if you went through a challenging time, use it to your advantage and teach others from it and guide them. That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, we don't have to stay that way.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. You can grow from it, you can learn from it, and you can share your experiences with others. So,
Yeah.
all incredible stuff. So a couple things. First, if on our last episode, everybody got to know where to connect with you and how to stay in touch, I'm wondering if you can read that back to everybody who might be new to today's episode.
I'd be
Yes.
happy to. There's a great place to learn more about me and everything that I do, and that's the website, and it's real easy to find. It's Letterfly, Letterfly, letterfly.com. And there's all kinds of information in regards to my artistic services, my speaking skills, and then all of my books are listed and described on different on the author page of that website.
Well, perfect. We're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast today so we can go ahead and click on over and get in the know. Now, Dave, I'm wondering if you have any last bits of advice to offer everybody today. What can they take with them as they continue on their day after today's episode?
I think that the little bit of advice that would probably be appropriate after all of our wonderful discussion here today would be that there are things that we believe that we adopted as the result of what we perceived was the truth, especially in childhood, that we don't have to stay the same. The thing to become uh, is to learn to question what it is that we believe, especially about ourselves. Because when we're negative about what we believe about ourselves, it qualifies as a detriment. But when we question those beliefs and then we connect with others who have already healed, who've got a head start on this process, we learn there are new beliefs that we can adopt to replace the old beliefs that end up putting us in more of a healthy trajectory as we go through our lives. You know, things like I am worthy, I am worthwhile, I am lovable, I am, and all of these, I am in the flow of abundance and joy. I am a wellspring of happiness. There's all these these are actually affirmations, and those are very, very healthy way to influence the experience that you have, and especially the experience of the people around you who notice what it is that you're radiating. So I would encourage all the listeners to question what you believe and go for the upgrade. When your computer wants the upgrade, that's so that it can do a better job. Well, you're the same way. So get the upgrade.
Yeah, I like that. And that's a very good metaphor too. Get the upgrade, right?
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Very, very insightful as well. So yeah, thank you so very much for coming back on. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you again. I'm glad you're doing well and you're continuing with the writing process. It's always a pleasure. It's been an absolutely fascinating conversation too.
Thank you, Danielle.
Of course. And for our audience, if June's conversation about Hit the Road and Thrive inspired you to question your own life design, I encourage you to sit with today's insights about presence, patience, and genuine regard for others. Because these aren't just horse training techniques, they're fundamental skills for anyone who wants to create meaningful work and authentic relationships. So you can be sure to check out the published books of Dave's Hit the Road and Thrive and Speedy, and all of them on the links in the description box of this podcast today. And of course, be on the lookout for more upcoming releases because Dave is a writing machine. He's got all these books coming out. All right. Well, until next time, keep writing, keep creating, and maybe, just maybe, consider that your next great breakthrough might be waiting in the most unexpected places. Now, go write and live your story. We'll see you next time, everybody.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.